Hey everyone, it's Jorik. Welcome back, and today we're going to talk water in Portugal. I have two subscribers that asked different questions regarding water. One was more about the water supply and dealing with the drought here in Portugal, and then another person asked about drinking water and how safe is it, and do they have systems to be able to, filtration systems that you could purchase for your home. So I'm going to go into both of those. Instead of making separate videos, I thought I'd make one big video regarding water as I know it. I'm going to also say at the top of this video, those of you that live here in Portugal, please comment below, because I'm going off of newspaper articles and what I've read. Some of this information I'm using those sources to give it. Some of it may not be that accurate. So if I'm wrong in something, please comment below. So first things first, I want to get to the question that was asked by Alicia and Kelsey, those subscribers. They had asked the question, with what's going on with the drought and the fires, does Portugal have water restrictions? And if so, what does that look like? Do they have desalination plants throughout the country? So I wanted to go through and answer their question, and hopefully this will be useful to those of you that are interested in that. And then I'm going to get to the second question about drinking water and things of that like. So for Alicia and Kelsey's question, there I'll get to desalination. There was their first and original plant was 1980, I believe, on the island of Madeira. But on the mainland, they haven't had a plant. There's going to be one coming online in Albufeira, which will be very helpful. So that answers your specific question about desalination plants. There will be one on the mainland, just not online yet. Now, when it comes to the drought, we're in the middle of, I think it's 70 or 71 years that they're saying that Portugal has been in a drought situation. The interesting thing is the reservoir levels in the lakes are at 75 to 80%, and that's coming from Publico, Expresso newspapers, as well as Portugal News. So I'm using those sources from recent articles saying that the reservoir level at least is better. We're in a better situation than our next door neighbor in Spain when it comes to that. The difficulty, though, is maybe due to climate change and other factors, we're having more fires, and I'll say more intense fires. So maybe not more in total, but the ones that we are having are more intense. So for example, there's a fire that they're still working to contain right now that has over 1,000 firefighters working to contain it. So that's a pretty big deal in a pretty wide area. So the other part of the question they asked is, are there water restrictions? So when you're living in Lisbon or Porto or the Algarve, or you're in Coimbra, Beja, Évora, do you have to, have only water your garden so many days a week? Or let's say golf courses, they tend to use a lot of water. Can they still use water? And from what I'm finding, almost all of Portugal, that's yes, there's no water restrictions, except there are parts of the Algarve that have placed water restrictions. I believe they place some restrictions on businesses, but as I was reading, I don't think if you're a homeowner or you have a flat, an apartment, I don't think there's a limit on how much water you could use, like for bathing yourself or for cooking and things of that nature in your garden. But in the Algarve, there are some places where they have placed some restrictions. But for the rest of the country, there's no restrictions here in Lisbon that I'm aware of. Please, if you live here in Portugal and I'm mistaken in saying that, please correct me in the comments. But it's interesting because for the drought situation and for the fires, I would almost expect that there would be some sort of restrictions or some siphoning off of what you could use. But so far, we haven't had any issues or any problems with that. So something else about the water, for Alicia and Kelsey's question about water quality and throughout the country, is the beaches. Now, we've had a number of beaches. I want to say the most recent article at the publishing of this video was 28 beaches that had bans, or they were closed for certain times for E. coli and bacteria growth. Now, that is a little different than the water supply question, but it is water. So Alicia and Kelsey, I hope that helps answer your question about the water supply here and how it's utilized. And moving forward, maybe there'll be more desalination plants, but we're hopeful maybe that there'll be more rain. We'll see with the climate to where the fires that we have are not as intense. Thankfully, the lakes and reservoirs are still at higher levels compared to many of our European neighbors. So that's a good sign to be able to utilize that water. Now, the second water question, which is a departure from Alicia and Kelsey's question, is from Kendall. And he had said, what about tap water? Can you drink the water in Portugal? Do you need to have a filtration system? And what do you do? So what I wanted to do was, again, in researching, I haven't read anywhere that the water has been contaminated or you couldn't drink the tap water. So I'll give you our example. It's a 1951 building in Lisbon. Even though the pipes in our flat are new, all the pipes going down to the floor are old pipes. I drink the tap water, don't have any issues with it. We use it for cooking, haven't had any problems whatsoever. But we also have what I call a Brita filter. So we put water in a jug that goes in the refrigerator and it gets filtrated before it goes into the bottom of the jug, just because some guests want to have cold water and they would prefer filtrated water. You also have bottled water all through Portugal, all throughout Europe, all throughout the world. So if you want bottled water, you can do that as well. And I think Kendall was really asking about filtration systems. Leroy Merlin is our number one, I'll say, hardware and home service store, home supplies to get something to renovate or add to your home. So for people in North America, it's like the Home Depot or the Lowe's in the US specifically. They have reverse osmosis systems, so things that would go underneath the sink and attach to the faucet, as well as they have systems that you would attach to the faucet that would help filtrate, where every month or two you take the cartridge out, put another one in. So again, please, if you live in an area of Portugal and you think that, okay, I'm not touching the tap water, we would not use it for anything other than bathing, please put in the comments below so that Kendall can get an accurate information, not just me reading information, but those of you that live here. What is your experience been drinking the tap water, or do you prefer to have filtrated or bottled water as an alternative? So in both of those water questions, it's a little longer video, but I wanted to be able to address both of those questions instead of making two separate videos. I thought I could make it into one. But for the time being, if you're seeking to move here, regardless of where you move, other than potentially a couple of parts of the Algarve, there shouldn't be any issues, I don't believe, with water restrictions. So whether you're buying property, let's say a farm, most of Portugal is going to be open to be able to water as much as you need for the crop or for livestock. And hopefully in time, we can maybe not have the drought, which is creating these just really intense fires. I'm worried when you have 1,000 firefighters working on a fire, trying to put it out, that lives will be lost. Not worried so much about the property, but the lives, that more of these fires, that's the concern, is that there'll be another situation like several years ago where firefighters perished in some blazes. But please, with the water supply, I wouldn't worry about it. And I think from the drinking water, I can't speak necessarily for the Madeira or the Azores, but the mainland, we have friends in all across the Algarve, Lisbon, Porto, and in the outlying, I'll say the rural or country communities. And no one has stated anything about water, even in the immigrant or expat forums that I dive into once in a while. I haven't seen anyone say the water supply stinks or it's terrible or I can't drink the water. So hopefully for those of you that are concerned about that, it will not be a concern when you move here. And even if so, there are filtration devices if you want to go that route. So hopefully that gives you a comprehensive answer about water for those of you who are interested in watching this video. I hope it was useful to you. Thank you again for always taking time to watch these videos, and enjoy your travels.